Hi class, welcome back, and I am getting this up a little bit late today. Had a little bit of setbacks with getting everything online, so I apologize, but we're moving on to Module 6, and I do want to pat you on the back. We've gotten through a lot of stuff so far this summer. So in the weeks leading up to now, we've really packed in the majority of a 16-week class, and I did warn you about that at the beginning, but I do acknowledge this is a lot of work, and I'm very proud that some of you have stuck through and have gotten here. So moving along, this week we're going to get into child welfare and health and mental health policies, and these are areas that, of course, could be whole classes in themselves, and we're just skimming the surface. This is a survey class, and we're just introducing you to the concept of social policy. So remember, this could be a whole area of study for a PhD program or a master's program. So that's the reason why we just skim through here, because there is no way to actually give this justice in the time we have allotted. So as we move on this week, you're going to start answering the last module discussion. I will change this here before I publish. You're going to read chapters 9 and 10 of the text, and in looking at child welfare, we're going to look at the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act, and I will get into that a little bit here. But this is an area of study that is important to understand in this area. The video you're going to watch will get into the idea that there is no jurisdiction in this country that doesn't need to know about ICWA, and it is something, unfortunately, that enough people don't have a strong understanding of what this is about. And so we'll watch a video that gets into that. There's as we get into healthcare, we're going to get into this complicated third rail of healthcare and watch a video from California and look at a Dropbox assignment there. This is the economic to healthcare. The video on California is the fixing healthcare video. That's from Southern California, from Orange County. There's chapters 9 and chapters 10 quizzes, and you're going to have your 4 initial discussion posts for the Module 6 discussion thread. And again, that's due on Sunday. And in fact, right now as I'm here, we will change this to the Module 5 discussion. And then, of course, we have the paper to work on, and so you'll have 2 weeks to do that. You should have all the information you need to really get started with this. But I will tell you, this is a very short paper, because this is going to take the place of a presentation. You're just going to have an opportunity to teach your other classmates about what you know, and this will be very doable, and you'll have extra time next week. Next week is actually a very light week. So moving down, we have the Module 5 discussion, where you need to respond to all 4 of those threads with at least 3 different responses on 3 different days. And that is a lot of responding, but as I like to point out, discussion threads are an area that's rich for showing that you understand what's going on, and if you don't, you can figure it out in the discussion. Usually it's a great chance to teach each other and learn from each other, and it's just something that cannot be replaced with a lecture. Chapter 9 and Chapter 10 PowerPoint, and again, it says presentation. There's no discussion on there. It's just the PowerPoint videos provided by the authors. And here we go. Here's the Indian Child Welfare Act. And this is a short video. And this is from the Native American Rights Fund. And it's a nonprofit that gets into the legality of the complex laws that American Indian tribes navigate. So they deal with state laws, they deal with federal laws, and tribal laws. They have a very complicated relationship with the government, and ICWA is, again, an area that we need to understand. And unfortunately, I like to point out that people do not understand this particular policy. And the reason this policy was put into place was to address long-term abuse, systematic racism, and physical and mental abuse that took place over many, many years and generations with American Indian children. They were often taken away from their families and put in dangerous situations and maltreated. So this law is designed to place the child as a legal entity with the consideration of the tribe, which is another legal entity, as spelled out by the Constitution, and allows the tribe to have some discussion along with the family into the placement of American Indian children. And tribes do have the right to determine guidelines for this. So this is a lesson that states need to learn how to navigate. So people who work in states, who are bureaucrats and work in agencies like CPS, if they're well versed in ICWA and understand why it exists, they can generally work with the system very well and do well by it. If they don't, they'll have a hostile relationship and they won't be able to adequately serve Native American communities, and it will lead to more problems for the state. So again, this is an area that states need to really learn how to work in with federal Indian law. And again, South Dakota, you'd think we would know better. We generally don't do so well here. So this is a state that a lot of students end up working in the system, need to understand this. And again, I'm not saying that a particular agency does bad with this. In fact, CPS, there's really great people in there who really understand how this law works. But there are other players that do have a hard time with this, law enforcement and the average citizen, for one. So we're going to get into looking at Indian Child Welfare Act, and this is something, no matter where you're at, you're going to have to understand, and it's smart to dig into. One of my shortcomings in this class is I don't work in enough American Indian policy into this class, and there's a lot of overlap that needs to be addressed. And so that's one thing that I do try to strive to get more work with discussing policy as it relates to American Indians. And again, that's a whole other area of study that is fascinating, and we need to work that into our curriculum a lot better. Then we're going to move into healthcare. Again, another very complicated issue. One of the main problems that we have with healthcare is money. So we're going to watch the economics of healthcare. It's a crash course video. And healthcare is very interesting. It's very, very expensive. And people like to complain about paying bills. But when you don't have it, it's nice to... It's something you wish you had. When you don't need it, it's something you don't think you need. So it's just a very complicated issue. Other countries really have done a very good job at figuring this out. They pay less for it than we do. They also have systems where things work properly, where the rich take care of the poor, the sick, the healthy take care of the sick, the young take care of the old. It's a system. That's how insurance should work. And because we all end up in and out of these categories throughout our lives. And so it's definitely something to be interested in. And this is an area that we really, really, really need to grow with as a country. We have a really hard time dealing with this. So we're going to look at healthcare. And I want you to pay attention to this because you're going to propose policy with this. Then we have the chapters 9 and 10 quizzes. Again, those are open book. Have fun with them. Our paper assignment and our Module 6 discussion forum. I'll first get to this, then I'll get to the paper. So the Module 6 discussion forum, you're going to first look at Chapter 9. So looking at race and child welfare policies. You're going to use your textbook for this. Then we're going to look at the cultural construction of parenting. So remember, things are socially and culturally constructed. And again, as policy wonks, it's good to understand where culture plays in here. I know most of you are sociology students, so this shouldn't be too far-reaching. And then we're going to look at this video from Orange County that looks at some current problems with healthcare. You know, and notice we're not talking about COVID right now. If you want to jump in there, you can go ahead and discuss that, but I don't have that being discussed at this point in the class. One of our final discussions will jump in there a little bit. And then last is your recommendation. So we're going to look at, this is a very complicated issue, and so you're going to pick just one policy that you would recommend to address a particular issue with the delivery of healthcare. Again, one policy. So don't go all over the place here. And what you're going to do is, hopefully, we'll act like a policy shop, and if a lot of people put in ideas for recommendations, we'll have some good ideas come about. So it should be interesting, should be fun, and it's using your foresight and your lens to look forward to try to make society better. That's a big part of policy, is reaching out and trying to improve society. That's why I find it so fascinating. This is really trying to take your vision and put it into motion. So lastly, we're going to go over the paper. This paper is only 5 pages. Very short by standards for a university setting. But part of the reason is you're going to have to read everybody else's paper in the class, and they're going to read yours. So this is writing for each other. So first you're going to write a short paper. You're going to stitch these 2 papers, the presentation 1 and part 2, into a single paper. This will be 5 pages minimum, and it's an opportunity for you to demonstrate your understanding of the material covered in this class. So this paper is going to be you teaching each other about a social problem and discuss how you would work to proceed in addressing part of that problem. So first off, you're going to identify the social problem, and then you're going to discuss briefly the history of the problem, and then you're going to identify the social policy that addresses the problem that you want to focus on. Remember, sometimes there is not a policy that you could find, and that right there is a problem, so you can mention that. Then propose a possible solution to that problem that you see with the existing policy. Again, if you can't identify a policy, you can bring that up here. And so that you're getting prescriptive. And lastly, you're going to discuss the level this policy will be enacted and propose a policy at the agency, local, state, or federal level to address this problem. Now, if you have any questions with this, go ahead and email me. If you get it done early, I can go ahead and review this early and get back to you and tell you if anything needs to be changed. But again, this is a very personal thing. You're going to take an issue and you're going to personally suggest a way to fix it. And this is great. You want to make society better. This is how we do it. It takes all of your years of education and it puts foresight and problem solving right out there. So it gives you a great opportunity to show what you know and the future that you envision for our society. So again, get back to me if any questions, and have a great week.